So I co-founded RapidScale. Background, I was in carrier services from helping build Paytech in the West Coast. Ron Beer, I know very well actually. It was really great to see him at Earthlink now and be somewhere new. But in doing such, I have a very extensive background in carrier services. I was also on the Channel Partners Advisory Board in 2009, 2010. I bought a consulting company, which I did a lot of successful consulting for PricewaterhouseCoopers before they decided to bring the IT services in-house. And that was very successful. It was in the capital investment space. So I know exactly what you do. And so there's a bridging of the gap between consulting on carrier services and what you know inside and out right now, and then getting into cloud. So one of the things I want to make this really about is I want to answer questions on what the cloud is. I could come up here and sit and make this about RapidScale, but really I want to answer a lot of questions. How you sell today, how you interact, how I see agents selling successfully the cloud, and not just the company. But I'll give you a little insight on the company. In 2008, I founded the company when I was doing consulting projects. When I was doing the consulting projects, they started to move towards IT. And they were part of these shared spend projects for capital investment companies. And so we created a contract with Paytech that allowed me to walk into a large capital investment company and take the smallest entity and give them the same price as the biggest entity. And so I was able to scale that across 4 or 5 different capital investment companies, go in, analyze all their carrier services, look at the data, provide the data back, do very in-depth analysis and research and presentations, and I was able to build a very successful consulting company or division of part of another consulting company. Then I went on to end up buying that company. That allowed me to basically get into the IT space through bringing in the other gentleman I co-founded. We had a project where they paid us close to $50,000 to come in and analyze what they were doing around carrier services and around IT services. Obviously, my background was not IT services, so I wanted to bring somebody in. The gentleman I brought in, I met at a client. He was 22, CIO magazine, ones to watch, working for a multi-billion-dollar company. And I thought, this guy's really sharp. After about 6 months of that project and getting through that project, they wanted to give us $60,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue to take everything that they were doing and move to the cloud. And Will had already been working at a large VAR, and they were willing to do something, but it just didn't work out, and it didn't work out because it wasn't a smooth transition to really what cloud is today. And this is back in 2008, 2009, very different than it is today. What that catapulted ultimately was the foundation of what RapidScale is today. RapidScale was founded by myself and the other gentleman, William Hyatt. We're backed by the former COO of Terramark, Marvin Wheeler, very well known in this region, the former president of Ariba Networks, the former president of Sprint. 2 of the main capital investment companies behind both CBeyond and Paytech are investment companies behind us, meaning the individual partners have invested early in us. We have great minds behind us. We've grown exponentially. Last 3 years, 160% average growth over the 3-year period. And we're launching cloud for some of the largest MSOs in the United States. Yesterday I was in Cox. We're getting through the contract phase with Cox. We're launching Bright House. Goes general availability this next month for Bright House in Tampa and Orlando and other markets. And then we just launched cloud for Integra, which is in the Northwest, is a pretty big company as well in the CLEC space. So not only do we sell directly through the channel and the 4 or 5 different channel partners that I have, or channel leaders that I have within the organization, Andrew being one, we have solutions engineers that come in. We expanded into this kind of white label wholesale model too. That's seen a lot of pickup. Over the next couple of years, you're going to see a significant push within the cloud space through the service providers. So we've come in from both angles. It really helps us out. It helps our brand out. It helps the position of the company out, and really is going to help the channel. Ultimately, good channel partners should always win deals. I mean, that's always was my belief. If somebody's good at consulting, they're going to win the deal over somebody who's in direct sales. The majority of time, that's just going to happen because the approach is a better approach. You're managing client renewals. I mean, when I was consulting, I'd say, I'm going to manage your next client renewal to success. You tell me one direct person that's going to do that. It doesn't happen. The business model isn't set up for that. So the channel has grown so much because when the channel is good, and depending on the agent, who the agent is, if they're good, they can succeed vastly in controlling the client experience. So, and I was really good at that, and that allowed me to be on Channel Partners Advisory Board. I did multiple articles with regards to where the industry is going. I said this industry will eventually go to what the healthcare industry is. It's a broker-based model through the big companies. The brokers are very large, some of them are very successful, and distribute basically through partnerships such as yours, because there are a lot of small brokers in the healthcare space too. So we've seen a lot of growth within the channel, we've seen a lot of opportunity within the channel, and we've seen companies like Earthlink go to basically channel focused. And so there's a lot of other companies that have done the same thing. So one thing that I do want to state is that we are a channel focused company. We're expanding, we have a ton of clients in the South, throughout the entire South. We're gonna get a ton more. Clients from billing 60,000 throughout South Florida into Tampa and Orlando a month to clients billing 500 to 2,000 to 3,000. The average client size for us is at 3 to 5,000 range, but we go up, and we're starting to see more wins in the cloud space in that 12 to 25K. That buyer was not there 2 years ago. So the one thing that's key is you got to listen, you got to open your ears. The one reason why I got into it is because I was open and willing to go into the unknown. Meaning I could open the door, I could control the relationship with my client, but ultimately I needed to bring an expert in. That's what I brought in and Will, and that's why we co-founded this company, was because the opportunity was so significant to get in and build something special. And if you know the channel can work for you. Like, we know the channel, I know the channel inside and out. So if you get good partners, you educate them, you build them, you're behind them, you support them, you don't fail on installs. You work through installs, you work through issues, you work through client data. Clients in this space a lot of times don't even know what they have, so we have to work through their issues. It's a hands-on approach. Success in this phase of what you're doing in consulting is not opening the door. I'll put it to you that way. If you're not opening the door for cloud and having that discussion, that to me is not a successful discussion. Open the door for a cloud discussion because the majority of clients are looking to roadmap, and this is a very unique way I went about this, and PwC went about this, is we always roadmap clients to where they wanted to go. We didn't say, this is where I want to take you. We listened to what they wanted, and then we analyzed the data, and then we set up a roadmap for them, and we help lead them to the end result that ultimately they might not have ever envisioned. Good consultants lead their clients, and they lead them through statistical data, metrics, and information. I'd never heard of IQ. I mean, one of the things that I liked about that is how many companies can actually turn up circuits that quick. I wish there was more companies in the United States that could turn up and be a backup. Even on an ADSL solution, when you push to the cloud, primary and secondary connectivity are so key to success. Success is based on them having connectivity and be able to access the data. The reason why the cloud is so prevalent is because 15 years ago, when I started selling internet, the prices were too high. You could never distribute applications effectively over circuits because the circuits were small based on what you could afford to deliver on. So the cost of the circuits have come down, and the ability to deliver cloud, SDN, it was a question I asked Ron Beer about SDN too. SDN, start to get to know that technology, get to know the values of that technology. It layers into what you're doing. It kind of displaces, in a sense, what an MPLS network is, or it layers on separately. There's a lot of knowledge to look within this space that you just have to keep on the front end. And good solutions engineers for companies, or good channel managers, which there's not a lot of them, can help you drive that revenue. So one thing that I want to speak briefly more about as a company. So once we founded the company, in the last 5 years, our growth, again, is last 3 years especially, been 160% average growth. What we're doing now is we're winning in volume, meaning the agents are maturing. It's all agent driven. The deal size was 500 to 2,000, and they would give you a piece of their cloud 2-3 years ago. And so now what they're doing is saying, you know what, I just want to go to the cloud. Can you take me there? Can you do the entire solution set? So one of the cool things for Bright House, we actually managed is called Managed Cloud. So people that are trying to understand the cloud really have to understand the value of a managed cloud versus a platform. So you'll hear managed cloud with even Rackspace, but it's truly not a managed cloud product set. So managed cloud is really what the carriers do. They give you a project manager, they give you the engineer to migrate the data or get the circuits turned up and get the IP set up, and then they give you account managers. And the account managers are actually an immense value within this space. They're immense value to you. You know, I loved it. I mean, it was one of the reasons why I loved being at Paytech in the early days, is they had great project managers and great account managers. You can find good engineers, but they don't communicate. So you have to find the teams that communicate really well and support the client experience, because really what's this about? The client experience. So when we look at the direction that we've driven and when we look at the direction we're going, you know, one thing we did this year is drive towards a client experience. What's the client experience need to be? Number one, it needs to be about delivering applications better than anybody else from the cloud. We're expanding into Hong Kong, we're expanding into EMEA this year, and then we're also building out a facility for a large $7 billion electronics company in Montreal, Canada. These pods that we build, we own 100% of our compute, we own the IP traffics, the error number. We distribute and manage our entire flow of data and information for all of our clients. It's not third-partied out. We don't third-party out employees. We own and manage everything in-house. The reason why is because the client experience can't be managed through 3 vendors. We already have to manage 4 or 5 different software applications. So, you know, one thing that's valuable is to understand really what the cloud is about. The cloud is it's about delivering applications. That's a number one thing. Where it ends up is an app store for business. What we did in 2012 was get into a 7-month project I spent a lot of time with Citrix, spent a lot of time with Google, with Microsoft, and basically we said, where does this end up? And that's why we brought the investors on, It ends up at a business app store. The foundation of the business app store is what's being built right now. These computing pods delivering, tying together, it's like a network. Basically, we're building another network and figuring out how to make applications perform. And so we've been very deep in the weeds, but it's also why we're launching cloud for Cox, and we're launching cloud for Bright House, and we're launching cloud for Integra, and we have some other large carriers too. It's the ability to deliver applications better than anybody else, the ability to take the simplest solution, which is maybe storage for a client, and do it cost effectively. Get into advanced solutions, which are failover-based solutions, where maybe you're replicating the data real time, and then the data sits there, and then there's a failure, and you're able to spin it up on your servers at another location. We have 3 core pods in the United States, one in Sterling, Virginia, one in Dallas, Texas, and one in Irvine, California. We're built out in Charter's data center as a soft pod. It's a test pod, and that's in South Carolina, in Greenville. And again, this year we're expanding into Hong Kong and EMEA. Where this cloud goes is you're going to take and you're going to see this portal interface with these big carriers. You're going to have 3 core companies. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are going to be 3 companies. Just call them the compute companies. The applications that Microsoft will deliver will only be their core application stack. They're not looking to get in delivering other people's applications or managing other people's applications. What they're good at is delivering their applications, and Office 365 is taken off. What you have to watch out for is there's no money in it. So in the agent space, you always have to look at how do you make money, how do you position yourself, and how do you sell against something where you make no money. I mean, I never sold anybody I wasn't going to make money with, period. It's a waste of my time. You know, at the end of the day, the client's giving you the ability to consult for them. You're going to bring in the solution where you're going to make money and be accountable to them and their ability on the next renewal. So for me, it was always analyzing, you know, for a client, number one, what's the best solution? What's the best service provider? And I don't want to be greedy and make a couple extra points to deliver something that I know is going to fail. That was my number one thought process. Number 2 was, who am I going to trust is going to be able to pay me in an annuity-based model long-term, because they're not going to sell, or if they do sell, they're going to sell to somebody that ultimately has contracts or has been successful in the channel. Because if you have a channel-based model, selling to a non-channel company, focused company, would be the stupidest thing you could do. And so over the last 5 years, over the last 3 years, we've had 4 companies try to acquire us, but you know, and 2 of those companies had good channel programs, 2 of them did not. But we are not in the market to sell, we're in the market to grow. And there's an article that just shows we took some additional capital to keep growing. Where this ends up, you know, is you'll choose, do I want platforms for my clients where I make limited cash and limited commissions? Just to be frank, a lot of people don't have these conversations. It's about you making money, period. So if you're gonna make money, know you're not gonna make it under the Amazon, Microsoft, and Google model. Their models are not intended to give you a percentage of the revenue. The carrier models that we're launching with these big companies in the distribution of applications and the managed cloud approach and the as a service model, you're going to see not just with the smaller, medium-sized companies such as us, Evolve, say a Matrix, Rackspace's stocks tank, but they're a very good company. But again, Rackspace doesn't have a true managed cloud. They just manage the platform. They don't manage the end user experience. And when I talk managed cloud, I manage end user experience. Very few companies actually do desktop support, desktop management, deployment, on-site resources. So you really have to look at the business model and say, what's the best model for my client? And so, there's a gap. If I so choose to go to Amazon, but I lose 2 IT guys in the same week and I don't know who to hire, can I have Amazon support my infrastructure, support my business until I hire 2 more people? Absolutely not. They won't do it. So when you look at this, there's this gap between talent. You're gonna see a large shift from cloud talent or from in-house IT talent to the cloud. It pays very well. These good engineers are moving to the cloud. So you got enterprise, super enterprise, and then you got the SMB mid-market, which is where the CLEC and a lot of the consulting is done. Call it the $150,000 and below client, which is really kind of a wide open space and the core space that the channel is focused on. So in that space, there's this huge opportunity to sell managed cloud and sell managed cloud through service providers like us. Our intrinsic value is we've got a great hands-on approach. We've been very successful. We understand the channel. We're not going anywhere. We've got great investors behind us. And we've been growing at leaps and bounds because we do a great job at providing the client the best client experience. Like an example, Sagamore Hotel's been a client for 6 years now, I think, down in South Beach. I mean, it's been a great client of mine for 6 years. We did trade-off of services because I liked staying down there. So, I was able to take a little discount because I'd fly into town and I'd want to stay down there. So, but I can get into. What do you provide for them? What do you help them? So they have the Micros is basically Opera's their core system for check-in at the front desk and stuff. It runs kind of the core operations of the hotel, and so what we've done is virtualize that system so they can use it on iPads, they can use it on different devices, and we push that data to them. So basically it's virtualizing that application, pushing it back to them, and then they're able to do check-in through that. They're able to do,
every hotel has.
Every hotel is moving to.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so IT basically is today, let's just say 5 years ago, how many people said IT in the mid-market was already in the cloud? Very, very, very little client space had already moved to the cloud. So you have this mass on-site business model in the mid-market or a data center business model. And that's the business model that I sold 5-6 years ago. I mean, before I founded this company, I was selling that. I mean, that's really all I knew to sell for the most part. Will had already been a part of taking 30 companies and building a multi-billion-dollar kind of infrastructure and said, listen, it's the same business model. I'm consulting right now for the DoD on 47,000 desktops globally. I think we can build something here as a first pod, which was in Irvine, California, and we can expand beyond that. And I said, the channel is something I know inside and out, and I know the relationships. So I should be able to get the majority of the master agents to sign up with us, and then we can create a great distribution arm. And so that's what we did. I mean, when we look at it, there's strengths in master agents throughout the United States. What I like about TCG is they got a very hands-on approach. Some people have lost the relationship with their agents. Some people have the relationship with their agents. TCG's done a great job of strengthening this market. They're extremely strong too as well. And with the growth that they're having outside of this market, I expect them to keep growing. And our relationship will keep growing with TCG. Again, you're going to hear managed versus unmanaged cloud, and you really have to understand this because not enough people are buying into this. Unmanaged cloud are the 3 core companies. They're building the carriers such as the cable companies and the large carriers are building interfaces to allow you to choose from those companies because it's really about application or content delivery. And then you got companies like us which are managing the client experience. And really the carriers manage the client experience. They deliver a circuit, they manage the circuit. They deliver MPLS or voice, they manage that experience. So the managed model around cloud is what you'll see proliferate over the next 3 to 5 years. And that will be the core because we're managing that experience for the client. It doesn't mean we're eliminating the IT team. We're not saying here. In a managed experience, they might want to run their call center in-house, but they might want us for advanced engineering for something that they don't have a skill set in. So we might be able to take a component of what they need and manage a component of what they need. We'll draw up contracts that are flexible. We'll put people on site when needed for clients that have 15, 20K a month accounts, and they say, you know what, I don't have an IT person. I want an admin level person to come and do the busy work. You know, there's a company called 411 Pain, you know, out of Orlando. And we handle all we've got a dedicated person in-house that manages their day-to-day admin stuff, and then we manage everything else virtually. The majority of the cloud, when it goes from on-site, as is traditional today, to the cloud, there's about 85, 90% can be done virtually. So that 10%, it's not an advanced thinker, it's a task-based person unless you get to the mid-market and above, and then it's a leadership role. What applications do we need? How do we integrate applications? How do we perform better within the business vertical we're in by maybe taking a different application from when we were small to when we're bigger and implementing that? So you see application management and different mindsets as companies get bigger, and those mindsets are going to be business leaders versus technical minds trying to manage the technical and rack and stack and compute delivery. What I like right now in the channel is that the channel's buying into it. 5 years ago, I was knocking my head against a wall, but the clients are buying into it, so the channel's buying into it. I mean, in 2004, when we started selling, when I was at Paytech, we bought a company called Allworks, Windstream now, but we bought Allworks. And I remember Aruna sitting there and going, yeah, we got to buy this company because eventually it's just going to be the delivery of one company managing the entire experience, and we need to be able to do that. And a lot of people were questioning it. I thought it was a brilliant idea because you wanted to layer services on top of the circuit. And so in buying and acquiring that company, today they provide a better experience. Some companies do it better than others, but at the end of the day, it's providing that one level of service to the client around delivering a voice solution to that client. And so, you know, that model has really started to take, but how long ago did that happen? That was 2002, 2003. You started to get voice over IP, then you started to get on-site voice over IP, and then you went to a hosted model. I don't think the majority of clients today in the mid-market and down want to have systems on site. They don't want to deal with it. Give me phones, deploy them, distribute it, and give me a phone number to call, or have somebody available to come out and address issues if I have a big office. And that model is what you're seeing in the cloud. Automation, system integration, ease of use around application kind of interfaces are all being built. Things we've done have gotten much better than they were 3 years ago for clients to use. And you're only going to see a huge push. I mean, some of the things that I'm doing with the big carriers right now in a single interface, you'll have single sign-on portals that allow you to choose any of the 3 big companies, and you'll have a single sign-on portal that allow you to choose RapidScale inside of some of the biggest companies in the United States and deploy our services in a managed format. Manage their infrastructure if they want to support it themselves. So they can support it themselves. When somebody says, why would I choose Amazon or you over Amazon? I would say, number one, if you're an agent, you're going to get paid, period. And that's the one people forget. You're going to get paid. Our business model is not going to go away. Our business model was built on the channel, and not enough people are buying into that, and they need to buy into it in the channel, because this model and what they're trying to do with some of these big companies is create an app store concept that allows the applications to be controlled by IT teams, distributed in that model with very limited commissions. Very limited commissions. It doesn't work for the channel. Period, does not work. So the one thing that I'm very passionate about is the channel succeeding, because this channel will succeed in this, but they have to buy into this model here, this managed cloud model. Outside of the global enterprise clients, which have 50-person IT teams, and a lot of them by themselves, and you might be able to consult a little piece of it, there's this space that you consult in today that all you need to do is open the door and bring Andrew in, bring one of our solutions engineers in, and we win. We're winning a ton of deals in this region. We just won another deal with TCG through a partner. I think it was a 4 or 5K deal. We're starting to get a lot more opportunity. And what I like in this relationship is this is a cultural-based market. people buy in this market. They understand this market. It was always one of the things. New York was the same way. The Bay Area has been the same way. There's certain markets where they buy within their market and they buy within their teams. Trying to come in and be the outsider coming in and building a team, we'll eventually have a team here. Without a doubt, not even a question. We're already built Andrew. I put somebody inside a Bright House in Tampa. I got somebody eventually going into Atlanta. Then eventually we'll build here talent-wise too as well. And it'll be 2 core people. It'll be Andrew plus a solutions engineer in market plus an account manager in market, because a model really maps into both. Small clients can be managed through our managed call center team, and then the larger clients need to have that hands-on approach.
What was that 4 or 5K deal? What did that look like? And what was it? Just curious. And who were you up against?
Andrew.
I'm sorry?
What was a 4 or 5K deal? TCG?
So that was actually an interesting one. We were up against an MSP that was white labeling Evolve IP. And we actually met with those guys yesterday because now they want to come work with us because but it's a law firm in Atlanta. It's a really good partner of theirs. A guy who's done a handful of deals with already.
That's the one with the virtual desktops, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Fully managed.
So that's an easy solution for you guys to walk into, because there's 3 facets to that kind of a deal. So it doesn't have to be a large application. I think it was 40 users, is that what it was? Something
Yep.
like that. So they're getting server, they're getting storage, they're getting email, and they're getting virtual desktop. And that's it. They're going to one place for everything. So it's kind of clean. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be a large application. It could
Was that multi-location? Just
I think
curious.
it was one, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, gotcha,
Because on a
okay.
virtual basis, you just open up a
Just
window and
curious.
you're
So
off and
one
running off the
location, 40
network.
users.
So you guys can walk into these things, and we're seeing them all the time. For 3 and 5 and 10 users, even though companies want to see these $10,000, $20,000 deals, you know what? You can do these all day, and now you've got the customer.
Yeah, because
Now they're
basically
on
it's
your
the same
network, and
concept
now
as you're
they're-
not buying or making a
Yeah,
contact
you know, they're going to go for email, they're going to go for storage. It's really just, they may come for one thing and realize they can do a lot of other things from one provider. And you don't have to go sell it, meaning you can be dangerous enough, which I can be, but you want to bring these guys into the deals because they know what's going on. They have the engineers, they put it together correctly, the same way you used to do hosted voice years ago.
Yep.
And you bring an engineer, and you do a call center meeting, and you do all these other things. Now, you guys can bring everybody in, and they can do the whole thing for you, and you be the partner that kind of puts it all together. And then they're happy, and that's the key right there. It doesn't have to be big deals, it can be smaller deals, and then they all grow from there.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, one of the main reasons why we won was we listened to what they needed. They're a law firm, right? So law firms have a kind of a legacy mindset. So they're very set in their ways. They don't really want to branch off from that. So we listened to them, understood what they needed, and then we're a Citrix shop by nature. We're going against a VMware Horizon product. I'm not familiar, you guys are with that delivery protocol, but there's some inherent features of Citrix that ties into the local system that's better. You can basically access files and data, USB drives, things of that nature, and have more control from that standpoint. So that was something we knew they wanted, and that was something that we demoed for them. And they kind of had that aha moment when the main partner saw that, and he goes, "This is what we want." And then us and the partner, we got aggressive, and we won the business.
Great.
Yeah, 40 I mean, think about it. What's 40 people, usually a 10, 15, 20 meg circuit max. The price on those, I don't know what they are here, but I mean, just in general, $1,000 or less for the most part these days. But then you get a $5,000 deal. So that 40-person business is a $5,000, $6,000 account now for you. It's a big difference, because when you looked at accounts, when I was consulting, the prices were going down, but I wanted to control as much and get as much revenue out of every relationship I could build, because that was what my job was. My job was to own the client experience, manage and renew the clients under better terms, okay? Make sure the terms they got into, they were protected based on the size of the client. I would negotiate like no other, and I was really good at it. And the other component is I would sell the carriers on what they were going to gain out of this. They were going to gain a mutual relationship, one with me and one with my clients. And so, in doing that, I gained a lot of respect through a lot of the carriers too, which made it easier when I founded this company, because the carriers hadn't really got into the cloud space, so they were excited. Oh, you doing this now? Great, great to see you. So it's evolving. Right now, I mean, over the next 3 years, you watch. 2 years ago, I was still banging heads to open the door for cloud. People want cloud. They understand I'm not going to hire engineers. I'm not going to use a VAR model, or I'm not going to use an MSP model when I can have you do everything. You own the platform. It's your compute. You have teams in-house, 24/7 call centers. You can deliver 40 milliseconds or less applications to me anywhere in the United States based on the way our data centers are set up. You're launching for some of the biggest companies in the United States, so that eliminates my concern as to your longevity. And when you're positioning, people go, well, who is RapidScale? Well, if you just look at, an example, the board member we just added, he's a board member for Rackspace too. We're adding top talent both on the finance and the engineering side, and on on the board side as well. So we're going to be around. We're not going anywhere. We're building a great foundation, a great company. The thing that I missed the most when I left Paytech, or after Paytech bought McLeod, is they bought something that wasn't a good asset for them to acquire. If anybody knows about that acquisition, it was a very bad asset to acquire because the talent behind that team and the systems that they had in place after a couple bankruptcies did not work with what Paytech had in place in an enterprise client base. And it caused a lot of headaches. And it caused, Ron Beer, I think he said to me the other day, he goes, when we were in Vegas, he goes, I had a lot of sleepless nights once that whole thing went down. And it did. It's unfortunate because you don't know what you get into when you get into large acquisitions like that. It was a very good company up into that point. The same business model that we took on in 1997 to when I left in 2006, 2007 is the same business model that we're building here. Many of the same investors were invested in Paytech and CBON, so they understand where the business model is going. The understanding of this is going to be a space that's going to grow, but it's going to be mass consumption, and this is going to be hands-on approach. One of the coolest things is the actual TV, a TV piece that's going to be pushed out in Tampa, which is the human element to cloud is where the cloud really is what the cloud's all about, which is dropping the human element in. The human element in the IT and the enterprise space is from 10 to 20 to 30 person IT teams. From programming to advanced engineering to security, that's what those teams do, and they're really good at it, and they have teams and experts. We have those same teams running these clients that spend really $150K and down per month. Our largest client is up around that $150K, and it's growing, and it's been growing through acquisitions. So before I've talked a decent amount, I want to answer questions before I get kicked off the stage here, but I want to make sure I answer any cloud questions you have. The direction of it, how to consult it, the approach you might have, please. I've really dug into this space a lot. I got the background you guys have. I have, yes, Alan?
I know a lot of agents ask, so if you put them in the cloud, it's a great solution. Now, how do I know how much bandwidth we should sell them to accommodate the applications they're trying to do? How do you handle that?
Well said. Well, I'm going to go to that SDN comment I made earlier too, because good agents are also trying to understand how these things are playing together and the value props. So, cloud obviously changes the bandwidth requirements, period, not even a question. The average that a Citrix or us tell somebody if you do a virtualized environment, I'm going to package your applications, I'm going to send them virtually, you're going to access the internet through that, you're not going to go out and we got web filtering in place, so you're not going to run YouTube videos, you don't have your company using it for personal use and sucking up bandwidth. The average per user is between 125 to 200, and it just depends on what applications are running. And so that's your average per user. So what I look at, I basically say, if my average per user, say 20 people, and I'm going to do it at 200, so that's, what's that?
4K, right?
Yeah.
4 meg.
4 megs, exactly right. Yep, 200 kbps. Exactly. So when you look at that, it's 4 megs. Most people today, 4 megs is like, well, why wouldn't I get 10? It's simple. It's bucks difference. So what happens is a lot of companies don't get enough because they don't plan for acquisition. And then they got to go back and get a new circuit. And they get an acquisition and they add more people or they move it, whatever it might be. So I always tell people, plan for a buffer of 1 times if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, we can do it at what's at and just plan. But if you're going to have spikes or acquisitions you need to plan for, let's plan for 2 times whatever the bandwidth need is, and that's 10 megs. So that 20-person business is going to get 10 megs. That 20-person business usually spends about $3,500 to $4,000 with us on a monthly basis. So now you're looking at, call it a $4,500 to $5,000 a month client with everything bundled in. what I like about that is, in the one agents that have really started to sell this, number one, we do a great job in the back office. The client experience about how we deliver the service, how we migrate the client, the hands-on approach. So part of that is in the design. Well, what should it be? The agents don't know what it should be. That's a great question. A lot of people don't ask that. And so we'll walk through a client's applications, talk about what they're doing. If they're an engineering firm, they might use what are called CADs. We might have to use what's called VGCP. I'm just going to tell you. It basically allows applications that are high-res applications to be pushed differently. When you get into that type of space and you deliver those type of applications, the bandwidth might be 4 times. It might be 600 megs to 800 megs per user, specifically because of that application, and the streaming of that application takes so much.
But today a gig is $1,000. So
I know it blows
it's
me away. I
just-
still shake my head over that.
So-
It's Gigi's
The
$1,000.
bandwidth is there.
The bandwidth's there. That's the whole reason the cloud proliferated to what it's done. 5 years ago it was still a little bit higher than it was, but now, I mean, you know, you get a 10, 20 meg circuit, you know, and you're less than 1,000, and you're dropping in, you know, cloud for $4,000 to $10,000 for that, you know, 100-person business. I mean, some of the first deals we won in Tampa with Bright House, you know, were 5, 10K deals. They're not used to getting 5, 10K deals in the MSO space. They're really not. I mean, so when you look at it, there's a lot of value. They see it. The market's shifting in this direction. It's gone over here, but the agents are going to buy in over here. And they've already bought in to an extent. There's a confidence. Who should I use? Who's going to be around? Who's going to be consistent? You know, I'll tell you, South Florida market, I want to build the team. I want to build a great business model. And we've been successful in selling in market today. Andrew's out here on a consistent basis. I love coming out here. We have teams coming out here for the bigger deals. Most of the deals can be closed remotely with these clients, but we do POCs for larger clients, proof of concept with no cost. So in the circuit space, you can't say, oh, by the way, let's analyze what you need and give them, you know, 50 megs. In our space, we can try an application, turn it up, and show them, hey, this is really what you need. This is how the bandwidth's going to be affected, and give them all statistical data to make an informed decision. And a lot of people need that. It's a hands-on approach. Any other questions? Good question. Any other cloud questions? None? Sorry, it took a little bit of time, but hopefully it was informative for you. Okay, thank you guys very much.